I'm here to tell you that Worcestershire sauce is the best condiment that you are not using, and that my plant-based version is the best of the best. Good morning. I am Dr. Monique May, the physician in the kitchen, and my passion is helping people discover, cook, and eat delicious plant-based foods because my mission is to fix America's health one plate at a time. And one way I do that is with my product that I've developed, a plant-based low-sodium Worcestershire sauce, or W sauce for short, because that can be a little bit of a tongue twister. So the problem, consumers want low sodium and low calorie plant-based options, but they may not know where to start, and they don't want to give up those tastes and flavors that they are familiar with. Some of the current sauces may actually contain preservatives and artificial colors or natural flavors, which may or may not even be vegan. They may have high sodium levels as well per tablespoon, and regular Worcestershire sauce contains anchovies, which are fish, which makes it not safe for those who want to be vegan or people who actually have seafood or fish allergies. So the solution is my vegan or plant-based Worcestershire sauce. It is a sweet, tangy, meaty flavored sauce with many uses. It can be used as a marinade, added to chilies and soups. It's kind of that secret sauce that makes things just a little bit better. It's 100% plant-based, and my formula, the sodium content compared to Lee and Perrins, which is one of the market leaders, as you can see there, mine is 30 milligrams per teaspoon versus 65 milligrams for theirs and 45 even for their low sodium version. As I mentioned, it's going to be anchovy free, which is good for people with seafood or fish allergies. And for people who have concerns like high blood pressure or maybe salt sensitive and swell when they eat salty foods, this is a good alternative, as well as for those who are gluten free. This is just a nutritional label. It's very simple. You can read everything on it. And the market. So the future is vegan. In 2020, the global vegan food market size was $23 billion. In 2022, the vegan food market reached a value of about $24.5 billion. And the global vegan food market is projected to grow from $26 billion in 2021 to $61 billion in 2028 during the forecast period of 2021 to 2028. So specifically, the Worcestershire sauce market size was valued at $956 million in 2022 and is expected also to grow between 2023 to 2029. The vegan Worcestershire sauce market is expected to grow as well as people are becoming more concerned and want healthier alternatives. They may have concerns about high sugar and high salt content, so that will drive the demand for healthier products. And this demand will certainly be sustainable as well. So what are my milestones? What have I done to date? So I started this around the end of 2021 is when I started working on the formulation. So the first milestone is that I perfected it. It took a lot of trial and error, so I've got it to where I wanted to be. I was able to perform several blind taste testing with some of the leading brands. I am happy to announce I've partnered with a company in Atlanta, a brick and mortar store that will be selling my product, as well as identified potential national targets to partner with, and identifying a co-packer, which will allow me to scale and remove the bottleneck of just me being in my kitchen making the sauce. And I was also awarded a $2,500 retail lab grant earlier this year. So this is the team. Right now, it's just me and my trusty assistant, looking to definitely expand that. So the business model is pretty simple. At this point, direct to consumer. So I have an e-commerce site. I sell it at local vegan fests, farmers markets. To date, that number goes up by 12, so 73 bottles have been sold to date. And, if I get my wish, this is what I'm asking for. Money to hire a marketing team to really drill down on what specifically consumers are looking for as far as branding and so forth. Being able to have a robust advertising and marketing budget to really flood social and local media markets. And co-packing production costs, for scaling and also for distribution as well. And I would love to be able to replace my salary so that I can really dedicate myself full time to growing my brand, because I also want to have other products under the Physician in the Kitchen umbrella. So that's pretty much my pitch. Thank you so much for your attention. I'd love to take any questions.
Can you guys hear us? Yeah. Good? Okay.
Perfect.
Want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
I'll do some of the higher level stuff, and then maybe we can come back just because I also have some stylistic kind of points. I'd say you should just start these shorter format pitches with, I think, more like, I'm a physician, trained physician, practiced as a family practitioner for so many years, and I would explain the concept physician in the kitchen first. Because that might, in my mind, like that would probably hook me more on, okay, now I'm going to listen to every word because you've established yourself as a credible medical professional versus starting with why Worcestershire or W sauce or the market's interesting. So that's just my, I don't know what to call it. My bent would be, who are you and why are you here? Like, you're a highly trained professional. You practice medicine. Like, I'm going to give you more credibility just because of that to start. So I would hook people first with that. And then I would get into like why Worcestershire W sauce is your first product, right? And I actually use this convergence of vegan, sensitivity to seafood, whatever the real drivers are, and just make it super simple and tight. I think you can come back to all the market data, and, you know, like the market sizing data, 954 million of Worcestershire sauce, like that's kind of irrelevant to me until I kind of understand the basis of what you're trying to do. So it's like background plus here's what I'm trying to disrupt. And then we can get into like the product strategy. So that's just kind of, I don't know, more my gut is like you're going to get stuck in the details of why this sauce, why now, versus like why I think you're a credible entrepreneur to do something like this. So it's kind of just like reverse engineering what you just did from a flow point of view. These pitches, like I think I've said this every time I've been a panelist, like the 6-minute format, it's not very commonplace. Like if you went to a food and beverage or emerging food tech conference, you might have a 5 to 10 minute venue like this. And that's where it's going to be super important, just to like credibility, tight approach on what you're trying to do, why it's disruptive, why it's new, and then pull people into the details versus start with the details. Because you also, from a stylistic point of view, were relying on your slides and the words on the slide to drive your presentation, which I was losing you because you were too tied to the words on the slide and not kind of giving me a narrative that I could kind of get hooked on. So that's the problem with a 6-minute pitch is you're really just hooking people on 1 or 2 points and then trying to get us to like connect afterwards. Like if you're at a conference, hey, like I'm really interested in your views here, here, and here. Mostly because you're a physician versus like the fact that you know how many dollars worth of Worcestershire sauce traded hands last year in the United States or something like that. Anyway.
No, thank you.
My first cut, yeah.
Great job. I love how your stage presence ties into your slide presence, and everything is bright and cheerful and crisp, and visually, draws me into wanting to see what's there. I would love to understand a little bit more. That was where my head was going as well, Mark. Just the pharmacy in your kitchen. I'm like, oh, that sounds healthy and good for me. And tell me more and why. Why do I need that? I'd love to know a little bit more about your why. Why specifically this product? You talked a little bit about the challenge with traditional sauces in the market, but why this particular sauce? I'll just maybe pause for a moment. I'm curious.
No, thank you for the question. Basically, the short answer is, as a physician, treating over 20 years of treating chronic medical problems like hypertension, diabetes, obesity, and we need to focus on the role that food plays in health and disease. And so I wanted to just create something that was plant-based. Once I realized that anchovies make it not vegan, I thought, why not? So I just took a picture of the ingredients on the back of a bottle in the store and went home and made my own version. So, personally having a family history of early death, heart disease and so forth, hypertension, really just wanted to put out my answer to the question of how can we still have good flavor but still be healthy about it as well.
So that is what you just said, how we tackle health and disease beginning in the kitchen. I think, already, that's interesting.
I think that's your hook.
Yeah.
You just nailed it.
Yeah, I think so too. And then So question for you, I'm very curious. So the distribution, you've got the distribution partner, and that's going to help you scale. The direct to consumer, and what was the ask? I wasn't real clear about is there an ask in this presentation? A dollar amount?
Well, I mean, if I got everything on that list, I'd say 500,000 to start. Because again, part of that would include my salary to walk away from my day job and be able to do this full time, plus all those other things that can really add up.
Be more specific in the slides. Yeah, like again, if you were going to a conference or a public presentation or a pitch event where there are investors, just nail that up front.
Yeah.
Like, I'm asking for 500,000 uses of capital, like 1, 2, 3, 4 bullet points. Okay. Yeah. That's easy. That's just easy, like reconfiguring your content and just being more specific about it in the slides.
I'd also be interested if you were going forward with that financial ask to get a little bit more into the sales, what it costs to produce, why you'll be successful at that, what the distribution looks like. Of course, then I start going into the details of how do you execute on that distribution if you're a one-woman show on that side of the house. Are there some constraints? What happens if something happens to you and we've invested in this model? So those are some of the things that my mind starts going to, is how to then de-risk some of that investment. So I wonder if a partner versus the virtual assistant, or like a team, or the perception of a team, people that can mitigate some of these operational challenges would be compelling as well.
Another thing to focus on, like around whatever you want to call that, de-risking, right? So it's like, again, the investor pitch or the partner investor pitch, like your retail partner probably wants to understand, like, what are you going to do with capital if you raise it? You can be milestone based as well in your guidance, meaning I'm going to raise $500,000 and here are the 2 or 3 things I'm going to do with that money, and here's how it's going to advance the business. Here's what I'm going to learn, right? In year 1, I'm going to get 4 retail partners tested and a small production, partner tested. Like that's easier for an investor to kind of understand than an abstracted, like, I'm going to hire a few people, focus on marketing, and do this full time. It's like, okay. Because if I did invest in your company, you and I would be like talking weekly, monthly about milestones. What are we doing? What are we trying to prove? What are we testing and learning here? Are we still testing the product, or are we testing distribution? Are we testing pricing? Like, test and learn is kind of the mantra on that first $500,000, because that's not going to get you to the end, right? Like that's just the starting point. So and I say this to everyone in the room, not just you. Like, be milestone kind of goals focused as well in that. Here's what I'm going to do with that money. Not just spend it on people, but here's what I'm going to learn. Here's how I'm going to advance the company and the product.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Tell me about how you secured your first brick and mortar to distribute this.
A friend of a friend. So a woman who I've known, she's a physician assistant. I worked with her for years during my training, actually. And she knew of this woman who owns this company in Atlanta. And what they have is specialty olive oils and balsamic vinegars. So she just thought that would be a perfect match. And so she introduced us, we talked on the phone, and it was like, oh my goodness. And then we found out we had so many other things in common. And we swapped samples. She sent me some of her olive oil and vinegar, and I sent her my sauce, and we both were like, oh my God, this is delicious. And so it just kind of went from there.
And so where can we buy your sauce today?
So my site is veganwsauce.com.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.